bound. My understanding is that if a ship lifts I'm not an expert, so yeah, I'm going to depend on you. If the ship lifts, the potential that indicates that the cargo has shifted. If the cargo has shifted, that means it wasn't maybe secured properly. I've also heard that potentially in the rough seas, the captain didn't steer the ship in the proper direction. Can you confirm if that's part of the investigation at the moment, please?
Thank you. Well, as we know, the ship was Panamanian registered with a crew of 18 Filipinos. Now, in terms of international law, the flag where the ship is registered is the one that must conduct the investigation. What we do as a party that's affected by the incident, we would conduct initial assistance. So we cannot come to any conclusion on what exactly happened to the ship because that is for the flag to determine. What we have had in terms of our cooperation with Panama, we've got a surveyor and technical experts from the Panama flag. They're landing on Sunday. They will be coming into our office in Saldanha Bay. That is where the surviving crew were offloaded and interviewed initially at. We did, in fact, make those interviews, and we're holding on to that information because that is in terms of our international cooperation. It is the interviews that then the flag state must look at. We do know that they left Panama to go to Philippines to interview the crew where they are, and they come into us. So it is a long process that has its own steps, and we would not want to compromise what happened.
So could you just share, I know you said you don't want to compromise anything, but is there any information that you can give regarding your preliminary investigations into the incident?
What we know is that when we received a distress call, the ship was heavily listing. And in terms of the process, our first approach is to save the lives. So our MRCC picked up that distress call, coordinated the rescue. At a certain time, the crew had abandoned the ship. And a fishing vessel that was close by, together with other cargo working vessels, came and picked up those survivors. Now, a listing ship points to a shifted cargo. So we can almost tell that there would have been a cargo shift. Why the cargo lifted, we cannot tell because we didn't do the investigation. So that is as much we are able to say right now.
Was the ship steered correctly, as far as you know?
Well, the ship had followed a course, and we are aware that it was eastbound, going to Tanzania. There is nothing to suggest that it had broken any laws. We do know that there was storm that was coming up, so any master on the ship would take necessary means to avoid the bad weather, etc. But as I'm saying, that would be a function of an investigation that the flag must undertake.
So, Mr. Lai, just a point of clarity, please. Was this stormy weather when the ship listed? I get the sense that it wasn't. It was calm seas when it listed, which suggests that the cargo had shifted. And then the storm came and that worsened the situation. Am I following it correctly, sir?
Yeah, what we know, when we got the distress call, there was already bad weather. And if you follow the logs of the ship, you can tell that they had tried to alter course, but we know that the weather had come up at that time. So beyond that, it would be a function of an investigation that would have to be undertaken.
When you have an incident of this nature, how do we as a country get together to ensure that the work that's being done is inclusive of everybody else? There's an organization called the Incident Management Organization. If you could just speak to that organization, what it is about, how it operates, and whether or not it's involved here.
Yeah, that organization was formed as part of one initiative of Operation Pakisa, and it actually is a very good initiative for the country. The organization itself developed what we know as the incident management system, in terms of which every incident that occurs, we then constitute an incident management system for it. You have the incident commander, which is chaired by SAMSA. You have other participants, particularly our biggest partner is Department of Environmental Affairs. You then have local authorities, because that incident will happen in a local authority one way or the other. We have environmentalists, which becomes a big consideration because that is the biggest impact any incident has. And then you would have all the other interested party, including commercial interests in some instances. Then privately, you would have your every ship must be insured in terms of its third-party arrangements. We call it a P&I. Once an incident occurs, you then need the insurers, the ship owners. So all of us get into one room and have a discussion on how to deal with the incident.
Perhaps you could be specific in terms of the organizations. I ask this reason because the environmentalists, for example, are usually very concerned, and I'm assuming that that would be the case here as well. Suncorp, I think it's one of the organizations. So the grouping would be your NGOs in terms of environmentalist groups, right? Would be anybody else who provides services that are required in this kind of environment. Is that correct?
Yes, in fact, Suncorp were here yesterday, and they're quite happy that there are no birds in trouble. When I was mentioning the players within the incident management system, Suncorp as an NGO becomes a very key party because they look after the environmental creatures, the birds, and you've got some other entities that look after the seals, depending where the incident occurs. But yes, they become our biggest stakeholder, and we normally would then have a plan for whatever environmental life there is, marine life there is in the area that's got the incident on.
Mr. Tula, just to change track a little bit, sir, if you don't mind. This is the second incident of its kind, and this would be the biggest involving a vessel of this size. The first one was in St. Francis Bay, but that was a fishing vessel. We've had a few of these since about January this year. Now we have an increasing flow of ships around the Cape of Good Hope. The question I have for you, in your assessment of the management of these incidents that have occurred so far, what is South Africa's state of readiness for incidents of this nature?
By the nature that we had the incident management system implemented, we were quickly able to come together. The ship ran aground at 10 o'clock one evening, and by the next day, we already had an incident management meeting in place. So that quick reaction tells you that you've got a system that works. There always is a need for improvement, particularly by way of capacity, tools of trade, etc. The helicopter that we have here doesn't have a winch, so we then have to make do. So there is a need to increase the capacity, but the system in itself does work with the improvements that are required.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. There's a lot of work that's going on.
Yeah, thanks.